So now let's talk about this unit circle. So when you have a unit circle, let's draw it here for you. When you have a unit circle, the unit circle is basically a circle with a radius of 1. That is the unit circle. The unit circle. Now the unit circle has a radius of 1. What does that mean? Well, what that means is wherever I am at, so let's put a point here. You're in the center. So wherever I go, I have a radius of 1. Now, when you draw this X and Y, so let's put in the Y. Here's my Y. A little crooked. Let's see if I can straighten it out a little bit here. Let's move it over here a little bit. Move it over here a little bit. So we got it straight now. And let's put another line over here. We'll call this the X. Let's call that the X. So now I have what's known as your X-axis, and I have your Y-axis. And I have my radius. This is equal to the radius. So when we start looking at these things, we have been measuring the distance. And this arc distance we're calling radians. That's what you've been dealing with. You've been dealing with radians. And the first worksheet told you this point here was 1, 0. It told you this point up here was 0, 1. And it told you this point here was -1, 0. And it told you this point here was 0, -1. That is basically your X and your Y. So if you're on your calculator, these are what's known as sine and cosine. The bridge into the gap is that your X values and your Y values. Your X values are your cosine and your Y values are your sine. So for example, right here, if I drew a line right here in the middle and I stayed on the X axis, that would be a measurement of 0 radians, an angle of 0 degrees, and if I took the cosine of 0, I would get 1. So if I put 0 and cosine in my calculator, I would get 1. So we're bridging this gap with the 1s and the 0s. That's how I wanted you to start it. Now you're going to add 4 more points. You're going to add 4 more points. So this point here is what's known as pi over 4. Okay, this is pi over 2. Can you guess what this point is over here?
Pi.
If this is pi and this is pi halves, what is this one? 3 pi over 4. Okay. So, and if I draw another line here, and I draw another line here, let's see if I can get it out. Connect that line there. Let's draw another line here. If I know that this is pi, and I know this is pi over 2, you see these are going up by 1/4, right? 1/4. 1/4 makes a half. 3 pi over 4. This one here is 3 pi over 2. This one here is 2 pi. You see how we're going around a circle. So what do you think this one is?
5 pi over 4.
5 pi over 4. That's correct, Ruba. And what is this one here?
7 pi over 4.
7 pi over 4. Okay. Now, here's the gap. Here's the bridging. I want to bridge this for you. So pay attention. Today, we determined during the bell ringer that this point is the square root of 2 over 2. And that this y value is the square root of 2 over 2. Okay? That was the bell ringer. That was the bell ringer. So we know this point is 1, 0. We know this point is square root of 2 over square root of 2. I mean, square root of 2 over 2 and by square root of 2 over 2. You can estimate it, but I don't want you to estimate it. That is the exact answer. Whenever you have a sine of 45, you will always get the square root of 2 over 2. Whenever you get a cosine of 45, you'll always get square root of 2 over 2. Now, your calculator will give it some value. Your calculator is going to give it a decimal point, but that is an estimate because the square root of 2 is known as an irrational number. So the square root of 2 is in fact, I think 1 point something or another. So 1.3, anyway. So the square root of 2 over 2 is going to give you some decimal. I want you to transition, as we learn this together, I want you to transition and start using radicals. Start using pies. So I want you to guess for me, what do you think this point is over here?
Is it a negative?
Which one is negative?
The x.
The x. Negative square root of 2 over 2, positive square root of 2 over 2. So what do you think this is?
Man, I'm stupid.
Negative for both, right?
Negative for both. Negative for both. And what do you think this one is?
Positive and negative.
So it would be the square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. Now, this is important because when you start leaving the world of algebra 2, leaving the world of geometry, pushing over into trigonometry, precalculus, and calculus, you really don't need a calculator to know basic sines and cosines. You don't have to be addicted to a calculator to know sines and cosines. Because look here, this is always the cosine and the sine. So your x value is going to be your cosine, and your y value is going to be your sine. And we're going to start off by getting some basic angles. This is this unit circle we're trying to build upon. Your basic angles, your 45, 45, 90, your 30, 60, 90, your basic units. I am not going to have you memorize this because you'll have this sheet in front of you. I'm also don't want you to memorize it because over time you'll just get it. It'll be like secondhand when you look at it. So here is my question. I want you to think about this just for a second. If I ask you for the tan, what do you think tan is equal to? We're in deep thoughts, huh? What is?
Well, the opposite is on the sine, and the adjacent is on the cosine, but...
Okay, so what's, so tell me, what is it? Sine over cosine.
That's what...
You with me? Let me know if you're not with me now. Be honest.
I'm not.
I'm
Okay.
a little confused.
Okay. Let's narrow it down. So if I take I'm gonna draw a dotted line, and I'm going to come down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm gonna play like this is the dotted line here. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at. And this is the hypotenuse, right? And this is the angle. Now, this is y, this is x. So what is the tan of theta? Y over x. Opposite over adjacent. Y over x. So what if I asked you what is the tan of pi over 4, which is equal to the tan of 45, somebody tell me the answer.
The square root of 2 over 2.
The square root of 2 over 2 over the square root of 2 over 2 is
1.
1.
You see, I was guessing. Okay, never mind. Never mind. I'm just gonna turn my mic off.
Okay? Now, I'm going to stop share. I'm going to, I'll even stop the recording.